What is up, my friends? It is Wednesday night, the sun is shining, and I hope that you are all in good spirits. Obviously, today we're going to be speaking about Jarell Quansah's confirmed move now to Bayer Leverkusen, the offer from Bayern Munich, or the interest in Luis Diaz. We're going to talk a little bit about Lukea as well from RB Leipzig, who of course has been linked with a move for the Reds. We're going to discuss Malik Fofana, some changes behind the scenes at the AXA Training Centre, and of course anything else that you wonderful people would like to go through. Appreciate you all dropping in to have a chat with me as always, right? Andrew Baisley, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, my friend. First one of the day. Appreciate your support, my man. So look, where do we want to start off with tonight? I mean, we could do the housekeeping, if you're all right with that. So let's start off with a bit of housekeeping, and shall we? Let's discuss the behind-the-scenes changes. So we did get confirmation from the club today that a new member, or two new members of the coaching staff have been appointed. Giovanni van Bronckhorst is coming in, obviously, as the assistant to Arne Slot. And then Javi Valero is coming in to replace Taffarel and our other former goalkeeping coach. Both Fabian Otte and Claudio Taffarel are leaving Liverpool ahead of the new season, and obviously we thank them greatly for the work that they've done at the club. Welcome into Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and of course welcome back to Javi Valero, who you may remember was one of Liverpool's goalkeeping coaches under Rafa Benitez, particularly when we had Pepe Reina at the club. So that was the confirmation that we were waiting for there, folks. A lot of people are asking when we were going to get the announcement of Giovanni van Bronckhorst in particular, and of course he was just waiting for his work permit stuff to be sorted, and it has now been. Right, on top of that, we also got the news today that Georgi Mamardashvili is in Liverpool now, ahead of his unveiling, of course, as well. You've probably seen the pictures doing the rounds on social media. Again, welcome in Georgie. Can't wait to see his interview, and of course, can't wait to see him on the training pitch as well. We're also going to discuss the Diaz situation, which is, well, a little bit different. I think it's taken a little bit of a twist tonight because we found out today, at least from the Echo and from sources close to them, that Luis Diaz is not on the low wage that many of us believed he was on. And when I say many of us, I'm even talking about journalists here. I remember speaking with David Lynch about this when we were working together, and you know, he did say that he thought the wages were a little bit higher than Liverpool, or at least than people reported, but not to the extent we're talking about now. £140,000 a week is what the Echo believe is in and around Diaz's current wage, which, if it is the case, I think that's a fine enough wage. So what's going on then? Well, tonight we'll try and get to the bottom of that. Remy Hackett, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC as well. Andrew said, hi Craig, I mentioned Castillo Lukeba a few days ago. Super keen on him, but would like both him and Marc. Well, there's been some mixed stuff on Lukeba today. There was talk again that there was a gentleman's agreement that he could leave RB Leipzig for less than the release clause, but seemingly there's some backtracking going on there about that as well. So we will go through it tonight, my man. Jeremy, lovely to see you in as well, bro. Welcome back in. Right, let's start with a little poll on Luis Diaz. I'm going to ask you this. 1 second. So, do you think the 140k, that's 149, Craig, learn your numbers. Do you think 140k wages for Diaz are fair? Right, so do you think the 140k wages for Luis Diaz are fair? We'll start that off as the first poll of the night. I have to say, I do. Now look, could he be on 20, 30 grand a week more? Yeah, of course. If you want to put him in that bracket, 150, 160, wouldn't be too far away. But 140 is certainly... I tell you what it has done. It's removed some of the sympathy I had for Diaz in the situation because, you know, we know that Liverpool at this point don't look like they're coming to the negotiating table to start off conversations around the new deal for Lucho. And if the wages of 140k are true, and I have no reason to believe they're not, then I understand their stance on that as well. Because, you know, they have him on a fair wage. He's 2 years to go on his deal. For me, that's okay. Now, let's talk about the wages, though, because it's only fair we give context to this about where these numbers are coming from. So, it's not this one, it's this one. So, Paul Gorst of the Echo said, online suggestions over a Diaz wage packet were robustly dismissed by Anfield insiders last year, and it is understood the attacker earns around £140,000 per week at Liverpool. So I don't know if that changes your perspective on it, but it does mine a little bit, if I'm being honest. Right, so let's drop in and see how we're feeling in the chat. 140k is blessed. I'm just worried about our defence, said Nathan. Hi Craig, awesome show, said Lee Hall. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Or Lee, maybe it's a lady, excuse me. It's spelled Leigh. So either way, welcome, my friend, and thank you. Welfare, in my view, can drift in and out of games if not interested, said Top Chop. On F Brief, Diaz wages are 55k a week. Yeah, to be fair, look, I don't give the Echo a lot of credit for a lot of stuff because I don't particularly like them. But they would have very good sources on this. So in all honesty, I'm going with their numbers because they will have gotten it directly from somebody closer to the club. So whatever F Brief say doesn't mean jack shit. These guys have far better information on it. And they would be held to task if they were wrong. And I don't think they are, to be fair. As I said, when I spoke to David Lynch previously about it, we both thought his wages were a little bit higher than what were being mentioned, but maybe not to the extent of this. I don't think any of us thought 140k. So I think if that is the situation, and as I said, if they're reporting it, I believe it's pretty close to it. I think that's a fair wage, personally. Super Tiger said he's been overpaid in this past season. Just got double digits in goals this season, and the vocal Barca stuff from his entourage shows a player that lacks respect. See, this is an interesting topic, right? Because it's certainly been one that we've been discussing in our Discord group about that wanting away or not. Because whatever we say, we know that the man himself has said that there's been conversations with other clubs about his future, and he said that's perfectly normal. I don't really think it is, to some extent. You know, he has always looked like he's been angling for a move away, while still coming out then and saying, you know, he doesn't mind staying. And from Liverpool's side of this, they don't seem to be the ones kicking up a fuss about it. The club seem to be happy to keep him. The club seem to be certainly rebuffing offers because, you know, Max Erbel from Bayern Munich got on the phone today and Liverpool very quickly shot that one down. Again, let's read you through some of those stories. So Paul Joyce started off by saying Liverpool have rejected an approach from Bayern Munich for Luis Diaz. Max Erbel, Bayern's sporting director, made contact but was told Lucho is not for sale. Liverpool's stance is the same as when Barcelona made an approach last month. Then we have Ben Jacobs said Liverpool have formally rejected an attempt by Bayern Munich to engage over Luis Diaz. It's the second time this summer that Liverpool have taken this stance, having worked the same message into Barcelona earlier in the window. Liverpool don't plan to entertain bids for Diaz. They've sent a clear message the Colombian is not for sale. Al Nassr are yet to make an approach to Liverpool despite viewing Diaz as their top winger target. It would take a crazy offer now for Liverpool to reconsider. So again, you're seeing there, he's not for sale, but there's always a number. And I think that this gentleman, Raj Chauhan, might be right. So he said Diaz basically being forced into a Saudi or nothing move. And I think he might be right. Now look, that sounds weird, right? Forced into a Saudi or nothing move. But he has a football club he plays for with 2 years left on his deal. So he's at a good place right now. But if he does want to depart, I can understand Liverpool looking at it and thinking, well, obviously if you sell him to the Saudi Pro League, that's not going to come back to haunt us, is it? We're not going to face him in the Champions League if he's over in Al Nassr. Whereas if you sold him to Barcelona or if you sold him to Bayern Munich, he could be a thorn in your side because, of course, we know he's a good player. So I understand that stance, if that is the one the club has taken. Paul Gorst then said Liverpool have rejected an approach from Bayern over Diaz. They insist the forward's not for sale. Then we had more from, where was that one? Yeah, this one from Chris Bascom. Luis Diaz's valuation is well north of £70 million. So even if Liverpool did countenance a sale, and that is clearly not on their agenda, his price would make him one of the most expensive purchases of this current transfer window. Liverpool would have to find a replacement, and they don't want that on their agenda. Which, as a fan, I actually like hearing. Because like I've said many times, I look at our left side and think it's pretty good. Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz. Could it be better? Yes, it could. Could it be worse? Absolutely as well. So I understand Liverpool feeling they've got to sort out the centre forward position. We've got to sort out the centre back position. Maybe they don't want that headache of having to go back in again, because then we might be getting into that fear that some of you guys have about too many changes. So I totally understand the club side of it as well. So I do think it'll come down to a crazy offer from Al Nassr or not, as to whether he goes. Special Brew said, well, people forget sometimes we might be low on wages, but Liverpool offer very reasonable goal bonuses to individuals. Yes, I remember Bobby Firmino was on some mad bonus, like 50, 60 grand a goal or something like that at one point. Oh yeah, Mark, don't worry about that bit of static. What's behind me is just the reflection of the lack of light, Mark, from the green screen, because I'm wearing a black top in the setting. So if I lift up my arm like that, it'll go away. But if I put it back down, there is a bit of static. But 'tis what it is, my man. Craig, any truth that Liverpool are looking at Chelsea's Madueke? None that I'm aware of. Arsenal were linked with Madueke of Chelsea, but nothing that I'm aware of from Liverpool. Stevie Boy said, as of 24-25 season, Diaz is 55k according to Liverpool contracts and salary site. Again, mate, all I can say to you is what's been reported. So we've all heard of the 55, 60 grand stuff. Even when I spoke to journalists before, they thought it might be a little bit higher, but it's very easy for Luis Diaz and his camp to come out and say this isn't true if it isn't true, you know? So somebody's telling porkies. Let's go with that one, Stevie Boy. And look, I'm not here to point fingers at anybody. I don't know. You know, wages are a very private thing. But it feels like, and again, I'm just going off gut feeling, it feels like Liverpool are a little bit tired of this narrative that he's on really low wages. And they've kind of let it be known that that's not true. He's actually on more wages, because the sympathy side of it is very much there when you're talking about Diaz being on low wages. We'll all sit here and say he should be on more than 55, 60 grand a week. But like I said, if it is true and he's on the 140 grand a week, which the Echo have reported, that's a fair wage, in my opinion. So I guess, like I always say when I come on here for the streams, battle for hearts and minds a lot of the time, Stevie Boy. Battle for hearts and minds. And again, that's what this seems like to me. You know, Diaz maybe trying to play both sides of the fence, wouldn't mind staying, wouldn't mind going, but, you know, the wages aren't great. And then Liverpool may be countering this in the media by saying, well, his wages are actually a lot higher than are being reported. The time to sell him is next summer. Better timing, said Harissa Sports. I agree. I don't disagree. Like I said all the way through this process, I really like having Diaz at the club. And I really like having Cody Gakpo at the club. So I totally understand kicking the can down the road to next summer, because again, if he backs up with another really good season, then maybe Liverpool reevaluate again. If he goes and takes, 13 goals, 5 assists in the Prem this year, if he carried that and increased it next season, who's to say Liverpool won't give him a far better offer, or maybe an offer. So yeah, I don't disagree. And again, coming back to the situation about the amount of business we're having to do this summer, both ins and outs, that's probably one area Liverpool don't want the headache of having to go into the market to try and find the replacement for, when we've got a centre-back to find, maybe 2 centre-backs to find, Konate to sort out, and the whole Darwin situation as well. Don't fix what isn't broken, eh? Kind of, Ace, yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with it, mate. You know, it's not like he stunk the gaff up. I think most of us will feel like that was probably his best season in a Liverpool shirt, and you know, I'm happy as a fan with the options we have at left side. So, you know, if an offer comes in that the club don't feel they can turn down, a crazy bid, I'm sure that they will have targets. But I do understand as well the amount of business we already have to do this summer. Right, let's talk a little bit about something that came out of Empire of the Cop, or they posted. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I guess it's an interesting conversation point. So, Empire of the Cop have said Liverpool have offered a swap package of Darwin Nunez, Federico Chiesa, and £17 million for Victor Osimhen. The proposal is currently being evaluated by the Serie A champions, with negotiation continuing on additional cash demands. Now, for me, if that offer is true, and again, I don't know if it is or isn't, but let's just for a second say it is. So you're talking Darwin. I'd value Darwin about £40 million. Chiesa, I'd value at about £20 million. So that's about 60 odd, and 17 million. That would put Osimhen's value there at about £77 million. I don't think that's anywhere near a good deal for Liverpool Football Club, especially if they're talking about more money. For me, Chiesa, Darwin, and a small amount of money, perhaps, but not 17 million plus those two players, and I'm still looking for more. I think that's silliness. Curtis, hi mate, congrats on the achievement. Oh mate, honestly, I know I sulked a little bit about it yesterday because I was so hyped to come on yesterday and talk about what we'd done in that month, to be the second most watched dedicated fan channel in June in the world. It was incredible. And when that guy kind of caught me off guard a bit with the, you're not as good as Red Men, you're only sensationalist. It kind of just caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting it. I was really just so excited to come on and share that moment with everyone. But yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm still shocked, to be honest, in a good way. Surprised no one has moved for Watkins. Would you take him, homegrown and all that nonsense? I think for me, it's the age. Wally Watkins is either 30 or heading for 30, and you'd probably have to pay 50 million quid. I just don't think that there's value in that. But then again, I couldn't argue with anybody who said he'd be a decent option for a few years either. It would just be a very un-Liverpool-like type of deal to make, if you get me. Has Diaz successfully replaced Mane? No, he hasn't. I think anybody you speak to in that regard would say hasn't quite hit the heights of Sadio Mane yet. Even, reading through some of the journalists' take on it, it kind of has a similar vibe to it that, it hasn't quite hit the heights of a Sadio Mane. Don said, love your work, Craig. Watching in New Zealand. Appreciate you, my man. Bonkers LFC said, Man United are interested in Watkins. Yeah, the club with no money have suddenly got a load of money, don't they? Laying off staff left, right and centre, crying poor mouth everywhere, talking about the fact that if they hadn't have made these really difficult financial decisions, the club could have went under. And then all of a sudden it's, hey, 65 million for Brian Mbomo? No problem. 62.5 million for Matheus Cunha? We got you. Centre forward? No problem. Give us a 50 million centre forward as well while we're at it. Oh, and we're not selling Bruno, so we're not getting that 100 mil. The whole thing just feels farcical to me. But then again, football finance in general at this moment in time feels lunacy to me because I don't understand it. Chelsea are able to sign a cast of thousands and never seem to have any issues. Stuart said there's more backslapping and congratulatory super chats than actual football chat these days. That's okay, Stuart. Nobody asked you to come in, bro. And if so, you're moaning about people congratulating or saying well done. So you're moaning about people being very kind and saying like the channel, appreciate the community, thank you, and making a small super chat or whatever. You're actually moaning about that, mate. Do you not feel like that's a little bit weird, with all due respect, Stuart? I don't know what to say to you, mate. What would you like me to do? Give out to the super chats and say, no, sorry, I don't. All this free content that Stuart's moaning about. Remember that, Stuart. The next time you try to be a dickhead, remember, it's free, mate. Nobody has to pay a penny for this. So keep your moaning to yourself or go start your own channel, bro. But either way, again, I'm very grateful for the people that do show their support and congratulate us, because you might not know this, mate, but it's been a long journey to get here for all of us in our community. And I think we all a little bit of backslapping every now and again to say well done to all of us isn't too shabby, but then again, I'm not a prick like you. So Christer said, according to Andy Hunter from The Guardian, Palace is asking 65 million from Guehi. That's just insane. So I think that's been a little bit misinterpreted, Christer. And again, I know where you're coming from, bro. But let me kind of counter it for you. So I have it here. I think what Andy Hunter means is that was the initial price when Newcastle were in looking at him last January. So Liverpool could strengthen their central defensive options for next season with a move for Marc Guehi. The 24-year-old is a target for the Champions League, but Palace will need to reduce their 65 million asking price. I thought, I think the way I interpreted that anyway, Krister, was that was the price back in January when they were talking about it with Newcastle and whatnot. I certainly don't think they're going to ask 65 million now with a year to go. I think, they know, they probably ask 50, but they know they're probably talking somewhere in the 40, 45 mark. Right. So that's at least my take on it, Krister, mate. Anyway, that's how I interpreted it. But it was mentioned, as you said. Shout out to Abubakar, please, Liverpool fan. Abubakar, my friend, how are we? And thank you, Ahmed, as well. Leighton said, "All my homies hate Stewart." Cool. I don't know who Stewart is. Oh, that's Stewart. Yeah, sorry, I was getting confused, mate. I just don't get it. It's just a weird thing to moan about, isn't it? Oh, how dare people come on and be nice? They should all just come on and troll you, Craig. That's the way this should work. What of Chiesa to Roma, said Super Tiger. So there has been talk of that. Gasparini obviously went in there to become Roma's new head coach, and there was some talk that he's very interested in signing Federico Chiesa, but I haven't really seen much since that, to be honest with you. Dave, thank you, man. Said, well done. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you. Right, let's get through some more of the news. So let's check in the poll. Let's check the poll. So we said, do you think the 140k wages for Diaz are fair? And so far it's pretty much a landslide, but when we get to the 2,000 votes, we'll knock it on the head. Alison Jones, thank you. Much love as well. So yeah. Look, never mind Stuart the Moaner. I'm happy for all your kind words, and I really appreciate your kind words. So yeah, if Stuart wants to start his own channel, he can crack on with it, but I dare say he'd need to be a bit more personable before he'd have any success with it. Remy said, hiya Craig, did you see Liverpool are officially top of the all-time English League table? I haven't, actually. Guess who's not second? Arsenal? I haven't seen that one, Remy, but I'll be interested to see it. I might have a little Google of it later on, my friend, but the Reds are brilliant. Most successful club in English football, don't you know? Craig, how much have Liverpool gotten their war chest before they have to start selling players? Said Paula the Red. I mean, put it this way, Paula. I don't know what the amount of money that is available is, because I don't know if that's how Liverpool necessarily operate. Now, there obviously will be a limit to what Liverpool can do, but let's just say for PSR reasons or for fair play reasons, it's been widely reported that Liverpool could spend another £200 million and not face any problems with PSR or anything like that. Doesn't mean we're going to, but that's why I've always said I'll be interested to see what the net spend is by the end of this window. Because we will recoup money, and there's nothing wrong with us recouping money from sales, but, I'm just going to ask, are we stronger as a squad? Do we have a stronger, more in-depth group going into next season? If I answer that in my own head with yes at the end of the window, I'll be a happy Liverpool fan. Right now, we've had a brilliant start, but I don't think we've completed it yet. The situation now is very clear that we need a centre-back, because today we got that confirmation that Jarell Quansah is a Leverkusen player. So we're going to have to bring in a centre-back right now, as well as, of course, be mindful of the situation with Konate, and then we've got to sort out a striker. So they're the 5 positions for me that I'd love to have gotten sorted. Right back, left back. Obviously, we brought in Florian Wirtz as well. You got a striker and another centre-back. I'm happy until we talk about potential other departures. So if Konate is sold, you're going to have to bring in another centre-back. So I'm interested right now to see how quickly Liverpool move in the centre-back market, because I'm sure Arne is going to want, where possible, the players in for pre-season training. Ace said, I believe we need 2 centre-backs, Craig. My sentiments exactly, mate, but I'm just trying not to be greedy. I would agree with you, bro. I'd say a young centre-back and a centre-back like Marc Guehi. But right now, I would also be okay if we went into next season with a renewed Konate, Guehi, Virgil van Dijk, and Joe Gomez. I'd be more than happy with that. I'd also be happy with Jarell Haddo to come in if Konate was to stay. I think a lot of it does depend on what's going to happen with Konate, and I think Liverpool are going to probably have to figure that out quite quickly, over the next week. Do we suddenly see us make that move for Marc Guehi? Well, I think we'll probably find out something soon. On Lukea, because he was mentioned as well. Let me just do this one really quickly. Keep up the good work, Craig. Streams keep me happy, said Keane. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you being with us for 5 months as well. Right, where was I? Lukea. Let's talk Lukea. So a couple of things on Lukea. One report said Liverpool, Bayern Munich and Spurs are battling for Castella Lukea, who is open to leaving and has a release clause of RB Leipzig of about 90 million euro. Leipzig and Lukea have an agreement so that he can be sold for a lower amount. But then there was another one that said, where's this one? In spite of what's coming out of France tonight about Lukea, it may not be an easy deal to do. Over in Germany, Bild had previously stated this morning that Leipzig are not willing to sell Lukea this summer. They go on to say that it's said between all sides, it's felt that the Frenchman staying in Saxony is the best thing for his career, at least for the time being. So, yeah, again, I don't know what's going on with Lukea. He is available, but he isn't available. He's available for his release clause, he's available for less than his release clause, or he isn't. So the truth is, I haven't got a clue at the minute what's going on there. Keith said, I think we'll see a Marc Guehi bid by the weekend. So my reading of this situation, Keith, is that ideally, going into this summer's window, Liverpool would have liked to have brought in, let's say, Jarell Haddo, because ideally, they'd renew Konate, they'd have Van Dijk, they'd have Joe Gomez, and then they'd bring in a replacement for Kwanzaa, who's another young defender, let's just say Jarell Haddo. But because of the situation with Konate and it kind of being so up in the air, I think the club have to play safely here. And that's why we're looking towards a Marc Guehi, who is kind of a middle ground, still young, experienced, available with 1 year to go on his deal, Premier League tried and tested. So he'd probably a happy middle ground for the club, not knowing what's happening so far with Konate. That's at least how I look at it. Taylor Stewart said, Lukea is super interesting, but I don't think we want Verds defending the right channel. Guehi and Haddo or somebody young like that would be ideal. Yeah, so with Marc Guehi there, Taylor, you're getting somebody who's versatile as well, can play left or right centre-back, could fill in for Virgil if he needed as well. So yeah, look, I think Marc Guehi is just a clever signing if you can get him in for the right price, and it seems like he's certainly open to the move to Liverpool. England international, don't forget, good player. He is. Marc Guehi is a very good player. Really solid signing. And again, for me, though, I'm just intrigued to see what happens with Konate this summer. Right, so our poll. We said, do you think 140k a week wages for Diaz are fair? And 87% of you guys and girls that voted said yes, you do think that that's fair. So, John, how are we, John? Said, no way, Osimhen, he'll be off to the AFCON mid-season. So, there's no denying that side of it, mate. He will be off to the AFCON, like you've said. Would that be enough to put us off signing him? I don't know, but I tell you what, mate, I am kind of worried about African players at the minute, because you've got the AFCON coming up, right? Then you're going to have a Premier League season and then a World Cup potentially at the end of the season as well. So you're into the following season then, and these players will have had little to no break. That worries me, particularly around Mohamed Salah, because as we know, he's going to be going away mid-season with Egypt to the AFCON, back, busy end of the season with Liverpool, then potentially off to the World Cup as well. It definitely has to come into the thought process, John, anyway, when you're looking at bringing a player in. The real Johnny Sins, how are we, bro? Said, how many minutes do you think Gomez gets next season? Well, if he's fit, I honestly think he'd get quite a few games. If he's fit, I'd say I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 20 to 25 games, maybe a little bit more, depending on how deep we go in some other competitions, because he's not some wet behind the ears youngster, He's somebody who I think most of us would be comfortable seeing in any starting 11. So for me, If he proves his fitness in pre-season, I think he'll get some decent minutes next season. How is that fair that Diaz is paid less than Chiesa? He's not. They're on the same money, aren't they? You also have to remember something else, though. The player signed the contract. Like, this kind of goes over a lot of people's heads in these conversations. Diaz joined the football club and got a huge pay rise from what he was on at Porto and is making £7 million a year plus sponsorship. It's hardly like he's stuck for the money for the electricity bill. And he entered into that knowing that he's going to earn, what, £35 million before tax over the course of that 5-year contract plus bonuses. So it's hardly poverty levels. So, what one player earns, what another player gets, I guess that's dependent on a few things. And Chiesa, when he came to Liverpool, as an example, was a more well-rounded, more experienced player than when Luis Diaz came in from Porto. So I would probably have expected him to get a higher wage. But it also depends on what your agent negotiates. Petter said, who do you think will win the Club World Cup? I'm cautiously optimistic about our chances. As you should be, mate. Yeah, the route through for you guys looks, I won't say favourable, but not impossible. Who do I think wins it? Paris Saint-Germain. In all honesty, I just can't see anybody stopping PSG. They look like they've still got some gears to go through when I've watched them play. Definitely took the foot off the gas in their last game as well. Yeah, I think them. And if anybody stops them, well, they're probably going to go on to win it because PSG are a pretty good side. Right. So here's a bit of interesting news around the Saudi Pro League from Ben Jacobs, excuse me. So the Saudi Football Federation has agreed to bring forward the summer transfer window for Saudi Pro League clubs. It will now open on July 3rd instead of July 20th and shut as planned on September the 10th. So that means that from basically tomorrow, the Saudi clubs can start buying players in. Now, I wonder if they do that maybe to help Al Hilal, who are still at the Club World Cup, and perhaps maybe they could get another stellar signing in to push on a bit further, but certainly would mean any interest in Luis Diaz or Darwin from the likes of Al Nassr will probably be quicker than we would have expected. And also, there was something about the central funding as well. Bear with me. Where was this one? Sorry, there was something about central funding as well here that I just wanted to go through. Where was that one from Moby Hake? There was something that basically said that it's going to be easier for the clubs to now make these financial decisions themselves without having to apply for central funding for these deals. So basically, it'll speed up the process for Saudi Pro League clubs looking to make signings. Right, this one. So, Corriere dello Sport are saying that Napoli's president has met with his agent to personally get involved in the Darwin Nunez transfer. The report said that the Uruguayan international would be keen on joining the Serie A champions and has also given them priority over a whole host of clubs from the Saudi Pro League. Napoli have been reluctant so far to go to more than €43 million for Nunez, which is well below Liverpool's valuation of the player. So, again, that's where we're at. Napoli so far don't look like they're going to get to the number that Liverpool want, at least in this moment in time for Darwin Nunez. And I don't know how this one pans out. I really don't. Craig, do you think Trey Morris's new contract is going to be more than Jones' current salary of 15k? I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue, mate. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess that I wouldn't. I'd say he's probably making more than me. I'll be comfortable in saying that. Do a poll on what? What would you like me to do, Isa? Let me know what exact poll you'd like me to throw up, my friend. Happy to do it. This one. Keith said, Craig, I'm itching for pre-season to see Verts. Same. Same, mate. We don't have too much longer to wait. I think it's about a week away. The lads start to report back for pre-season. Who wins Wimbledon? I'd say Alcaraz, but Jack Draper's impressing me. You know, I've watched Jack Draper's development over the last few years, and he really does look like a very well-rounded player who could do it. But, you know, there's the romantic side of Djokovic. You know, will he finally get that extra one to go ahead? Will we get a three-peat from Carlos Alcaraz? And in the women's side, it's a pretty interesting draw as well. That's quite opened up. A lot of seeds went out. Just seen Emma Raducanu go through against Vondrousova, which was very good as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of my favourite 2 weeks of the summer. I absolutely love Wimbledon. Tennis is boring. It really isn't, Lee. It isn't. You know, if you watch tennis and are into it, and I grew up playing it, it's a really exciting sport. And it's a sport that I'll absolutely happily watch either the men's or women's draw. They're equally as entertaining. Craig, do you find a lot of info about Liverpool transfers is getting leaked compared to previous years? Maybe it's a Hughes tactic. I don't know. I mean, sometimes a little leak is necessary if you want to steer a narrative around a particular transfer. Sometimes it's difficult. I mean, ideally, football clubs wouldn't want leaks out there, but like, let's go back to the Diaz situation again. A part of me has to feel that the club were getting a little bit annoyed by the constant talk of Diaz being on a really low wage. So I'd have to believe that there was a bit of a leak there to suggest, well, yeah, he's on a lot higher, lad. So how about reporting that? It's cost me a fortune for my hotel this week because it's on. Then go different time of the year, bro, or don't stay near Wimbledon. I mean, you know, they're not going to cancel the tournament because your hotel room's got a bit more expensive. Are we letting Fofana go to Forest? I don't think he wants to go to Forest. So they're the ones that had agreed a fee with Leon anyway. Chelsea still in the mix, but the report from yesterday suggested that he didn't want to go to Forest. He wants to be in the Champions League, so you're working there for 10 months. Then why are you in a hotel, Billy? Bro, if you're working for 10 months, surely get an apartment or something. Be fleeced in a hotel, dude. By the way, do you watch or play cricket? Neither. I watch a little bit of one day. You know, a little bit of T20 or a little bit of 1 or 50 over, but no, I certainly wouldn't say I watch much of it. Right, let's talk about Kwanzaa. So we said, delighted to sign for Bayer Leverkusen. I can't wait to give my all for the club and to meet the fans. So that was confirmed today. And now, I want to... How do I want to phrase this? Right, let's ask this. One second, let me just type this out. Okay, so okay. One second. Okay. Right, so what happens with Darwin Nunez this summer? I've given you 4 options. He stays at Liverpool, he moves to Napoli, moves to Saudi, or moves elsewhere in Europe. So I think we've pretty much covered every base there. So what happens with Darwin this summer? 4 options. I'm intrigued to see what you think. Omega. So I was wondering, what do you think if we get Guehi and Konate doesn't sign the new contract? Will we start Guehi regularly over Konate? This is probably a stupid question. It's not a stupid question, mate. It's a very common question that I think a lot of us are thinking of. So for me, if you know in the next week or two that Ibu isn't going to sign a new deal, because I think we're getting towards a point now where there has to be a time frame. So if you know he isn't going to, for what it's worth, my belief is that we should start looking to the future immediately and start to plan for Jarell Haddo, let's say, Marc, Guehi, and whoever else, and then we just shove Ibu to the side and hopefully talk him into a sale this summer, because we don't want him to run down his deal and go for free. And I know it sounds harsh, but I think we have to look after our own interests here. If the player won't agree a deal to stay at the club, you got to ask, one, why not? What will be the motivation for not doing that? Because he's obviously a starter at the moment. He's playing in a team that's just won the Premier League and will have a good go at the Champions League as well. So he's not going to lack sporting ambition at Liverpool. So if he isn't going to sign a new contract, why is he not going to sign a new contract? Well, it's either going to come down to the numbers that Liverpool feel he isn't worth for what he's asking, or his head's been turned and he wants to go elsewhere. Don't know which one of those two the answers are, but I hope he renews and stays. But if he doesn't, I think you've got to move on and be hard about it. It's not nice to say, but again, we don't want another season of Willy won't he, reading every story about Real Madrid every 2 weeks. It just could destabilise the dressing room, in my opinion, and we should sell him. Even if we had to take a little bit of less than we would have liked. So let's say Madrid offered £30 million. For me as a fan, I'd rather Liverpool took that £30 million now, got rid of the situation, and go and bring in, let's say, Jarell Haddo or another young centre-back that the club like. That's just my take on it. Remy said, when you listen to Craig too hard and you look down, your dog's just been sick all over your foot. Ooh, sorry, dude. Hope dog's okay. But yeah, sorry about that, my man. But yeah, I do hope your dog's okay. How far will Liverpool go in the European Cup? Paul, I think we got to be looking at and thinking we left some games on the table last season, and for me, I think we should be looking to win it. Now, I'm not saying we will win it. Nobody can guarantee you that, but I think we could be and should be as good as anybody else in the competition. Danny, how are we, sir? Said Craig, I'm not convinced Ekitike. Apparently, he misses a lot of big chances and is basically another Darwin. What do you think? I've always been honest and said I'm not the guy to give you that opinion because I don't know. I haven't watched enough of him. I've met and talked to some people who feel like he's the next great thing. And then I've spoken to other people who feel a bit like yourself, Danny, and just think he's not worth the money. So I haven't got a clue. I'm happy to go with whatever the club want to do on this one, but Isak would certainly be more preferential to me than Ekitike. But again, I don't think you're on your own. It is a very... Do you know what? I'm going to ask that as the next question for you. I'm going to ask, when we finish this poll, I'm going to ask, would you be happy if we signed Ekitike? And we'll see what most people feel. Detroit Copbite, lovely to see you win again, bro. Appreciate you. Any American players you ever wanted to see at Liverpool? Yeah, LeBron. The LeBron of soccer. Do you know what? Genuinely, yes, I did. When Pulisic was at Dortmund, I would have loved him to have come to Liverpool. And I used to sit back and convince myself that FSG were stupid not doing it because they've got the American poster boy and, they're an American ownership group and it would help Liverpool's growth in America. So, yeah, that was probably one. But when he went to Chelsea after that, kind of didn't want him as much. But when he was at Dortmund, definitely was a time where I really, really would like the idea of Christian Pulisic. Dan, how are we, dude? Craig out loving the content recently. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that, mate. Thanks so much. No need to thank me, bro. It's all my pleasure. Do you think wingers will be more narrow this year with the two false nines in the middle? Oh, that's a belter of a question, Dan. It'll be interesting to see if we continue the underlapping runs, let's say, that we've come accustomed to, particularly with the fullbacks. Be interesting to see in what way he wants those fullbacks attacking. Maybe. Maybe. I'm unsure yet what to expect with the system and the changes, because obviously we're about to drop Wirtz in there, which is finally a player that can play between the lines. But I think maybe a bit of narrowness, like you've said. But it probably depend on the opposition and the setup we're playing against as well. Great question about the wing backs and the false nine. Yeah, it was a belter. It really was. Something that'll certainly give me pause to think, Dan. So yeah, it's a good question though. I do think expect a change, Dan, this year a little bit in the way that we play, particularly in build up. So we were direct a lot of the time when you've got Trent and you've got Virgil picking those diags. But now that we have the ability to play between the lines a bit more, I would expect us to probably do that. So yeah, interesting. But I do expect a little change and variation. I think this will be Arne Slot really showing his brand of football. Rather than last year, it kind of felt like a halfway house of getting the best out of the players he had and the attributes he thought that they had, whilst not wholeheartedly changing things too much from the way Jurgen played. Craig Gascoigne, how are we, dude? So brilliant as always, Craig. Konate only cost us 35 mil. Tell him he's 2 weeks to sign the new contract. If he refuses to take the money and get players that only want to wear the red. So I'm kind of a similar mindset. So I think he's got about 70 grand a week or 80 grand a week. So let's say 3.5 million quid left on his contract at Liverpool. I think that's a stance Liverpool can make to show that we're not going to be put into this Real Madrid fustercluck of situations. So yeah, I'd make that stance as well. Don't want to be here, that's up to you, mate, but we're not going to make it easy. We're not going to just play you so you can go to the World Cup and then go off and join Real Madrid. If you want to leave, we'd like a sale this summer, and if you don't want to have a sale this summer, that's okay. That's perfectly within your rights, but don't expect much game time. That's the way I'd look at it. Anthony Robinson, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC. Paul Bayman as well, welcome. Appreciate you, both of you. Thank you so much. Remy said, I feel like we're on the verge of an era of Steven Gerrard style screamers. That sort of play through the midfield. Yeah, I agree. Look, I don't think I've ever been this excited going into a new season. I'm so hyped. I don't know what other word to use. I'm absolutely hyped going into the season. New sub, great show. Honestly, thank you, Tis Biggs. Look, I know our friend Stuart had a moan earlier on, but I'll never get tired of people being kind and showing that kindness to me and each other. So to all of you, like I've always said, to be here, look at that. Just look at that for a minute and let that sit. And let me talk you through some context to what's on the screen. The top channel, the United Stand, way and above the rest of us. Nearly 2 million subs. Third place, AFTV, over 1.5 million subs. And there's little old us, two idiots from Ireland, in the corner of his living room, with no commercial success, no managers, nothing, punching above our weight as the second most watched dedicated fan channel in June in the world. And if that isn't worth us all turning around and saying well done to each other, I don't know what is. Because I could have only dreamt about that when we started this project. So I'm over the moon. I'm so proud. I feel like I've had another child. That's how proud I feel. So yeah, I'm buzzing. I can't lie, I'm buzzing. 1.5 idiots, that is. And we also beat That's Football, by the way. Another channel with over 1 million subscribers. We beat them. So to be doing those things with 329,000 subscribers, no commercial backing or anything, I'm really proud of us. But I'm more proud that you guys have stuck with us. Because I know I'm not the easiest. Sometimes I am an antichrist on here. Sometimes I'm moan, sometimes I'm moody. I get it. But it's amazing. I love you all so much. I talk about you to my wife probably more than anything else. Like, this has saved my life, transformed my life, made me a better person. I love it. This one. Marc said, hi mate, hope you're well. Is there any weight to the article I read earlier saying we've decided on Ekitike as a better fit than Isak? Where do you mind me asking, Mark, my man, where you read it? Are you aiming for first or just to stay second? Look, I'm a realist. There's no way we're catching the United stand. You know, they're the biggest in our industry. I'm not delusional. And I don't expect to stay in second place either. I think we've had an exceptional month. But to just do it even once, to be there, it just makes me feel so proud. But no, I never expect to catch the United stand. They're the biggest in our industry, and just to even be in the conversation is cool. Right. Let's get back to your question, Mark. Do you mind me asking where you read the piece, mate, so I can have a read of it myself? There was certainly a piece yesterday from Romano. Let me just read it back to you, mate. 1 sec. Yeah, so Romano said Liverpool are working on the signing of Hugo Ekitike. I don't know if that's the case or not. And I've been really honest with everybody. Like, I sat here and told you, you're going to get Wirtz, you're going to get Frimpong, you're going to get, you're going to get Milos Kerkez. I promised you those because I knew that information. I haven't got a clue who the club want as a centre forward. Haven't got a clue. But Ekitike is one of the ones that makes sense. Ekitike makes sense. Osimhen makes sense. Isak makes sense. But which one we end up going for, I really don't know. Craig, these chats are the best 90 minutes of my day, but don't tell the missus. Oh, mate, look, I love that this isn't just a football channel. I know people could come in and say, oh, it's not football. I love it. Some of my favourite chats on here when we're talking about mad stuff like food, TV shows, somebody's personal life. It means more to me than just football, all of this. This is like my safe space, if you want to call it that. Do you think if Diaz is sold, Chiesa plays left with Gakpo? Also, what would be a shocking signing that would have you saying, what? So Diaz is sold, Chiesa plays. No, Chiesa I think is going this summer because I just don't think he thinks he'll get the minutes ahead of a potential World Cup year again. New Italian manager has already said to him, he needs to be playing more, and there's no secret they'd like him back in Italy. So, but I did wonder slightly different, Asentino, that if Diaz stays and we were to move Darwin on, is there a world where maybe we don't buy the centre forward yet? And Diaz, again, comes through central for a while. Maybe Dan's plays a bit. Maybe we play a false nine for a bit. That's what kind of has me intrigued. Right, so we've had nearly 1,400 votes, but the question that I asked, if you guys could vote on it, is what happens with Darwin Nunez this summer? Does he stay at Liverpool? Does he move to Napoli? Does he move to the Saudi Pro League? Or does he move elsewhere in Europe? Crimbo, how are we, dude? So, you've changed your name. You used to be Crimbo Slot, didn't you? Change your name. Congrats, Craig, and well done. You're our best mate. Or you're the best mate. Thank you, man. I have it easy. I say this all the time. I look at other content creators and I don't know how they do it. I don't know how somebody can come on and just talk about football or anything for a prolonged period. For me, you're the star of the show. Without you guys, I couldn't sit here and do this. I couldn't turn on this and speak for 90 minutes without interacting. You're the star of the show for me, you guys. And you guys give me some of the best moments on this channel, some of the funniest moments and some of the most insightful moments. Like this question we had from Dan earlier on. An absolute belter of a question and something that would really get me thinking. I probably wouldn't have ever given the thought process to us being maybe a little bit more narrow. But now that Dan O'Connell's mentioned it, I'm definitely going to be thinking about it more. Des Paul, well done, Craig, well deserved. Thank you, bro. And again, thank you to Crimbo for his 20 months membership with us and yourself, Des, for 14. Appreciate you. We all like eating pie, nudge, nudge, mate. I love a bit of pie. I mean, it's not going to shock you, is it, to hear that I like a bit of pie, but I do like a bit of pie. Best place to stay for game day. So, I guess it depends on your budget. The great thing about going to Liverpool for a match is there really is somewhere for every budget. So, like me and Connor, as an example, we've stayed anywhere from a hostel. We stayed in a place called, I think it was Eat, Stay, Love or something like that in Liverpool. And it was pretty good. Decent hostel. Yeah, very clean. We've stayed in mid-range hotels, like the likes of the Ibis, Holiday Inn, stuff like that. And now for this trip, we're going over to the United game. We're staying at the Shankly Hotel. And I'm so excited to be able to stay at that hotel and obviously look up so much of the history around Bill Shankly because, his relations started the hotel. So, yeah, something for every budget, mate. Honestly, there is. And also, for our last Liverpool show that we did, we had to stay out in Wigan because we couldn't get accommodation near Liverpool. We had to drive all the way in from Wigan for the show. Right. The Shankly Hotel is nice. It looks nice. Yeah, I can't wait to go and stay there. So excited about it. Like I told you guys this, I'm coming off vacation, so I'm going to be in Turkey in October for the international break. And then I'm coming back from Turkey and going straight to Liverpool for the United game. And I can't wait for those 2 weeks. Definition of Wigan kebab, a pie on a stick. Is a Wigan kebab, though, not a pie in a bun? No, I thought a Wigan kebab was a pie in a bap, like in a bread roll. Because I nearly had one. I just didn't get around to it. Best way to go about getting tickets. Oh, we went through the club, mate, and bought hospitality once. The only way we could think of getting them. So, yeah. I'm sure there are certainly people that can direct you to forums and stuff, maybe, where you can get them. But, yeah, for us, we just went that way. Pie and pea wet for Wiganers. There you go. I do love a pie, as I said. Craig, it's a pie, buddy. Nice. Well, look, I'm not going to lie, Dave. It looked like I'd give it a go. When I looked at the Wigan kebab, I thought, do you know what? I'd eat that. Right, let's keep talking. Al Nassr. Let's talk about them for a minute. This report here said Al Nassr could test Liverpool's Diaz stance. With the Anfield club valuing Diaz at around €80 million, there's little prospect of either European giant putting the Reds under threat. But one team could change all of that. Al Nassr are planning to spend big this summer, with Darwin Nunez also among their targets. And according to a new report in the Mail, Cristiano Ronaldo's club could test Liverpool's resolve for Diaz. Should the Reda Giants meet his asking price, then Liverpool would all of a sudden reconsider their stance. And I think they will. I think Liverpool will be open to selling Diaz to Al Nassr for the reasons I pointed out earlier on. You're not selling him to a Champions League rival, and I think they feel like they could probably get more than they believe Diaz is worth. What was the poll I promised that gentleman a minute ago I'd do? I told somebody I'd do another poll in a minute, and God, my dumb ass has already forgotten about it. Right, where are we at with this one? 1,600, 400 more votes to go. Right, if you can, hit that like button for me as well, folks. Appreciate you. Oh, Ekitike, yeah, see? This is what I'm saying. I wasn't lying when I said I couldn't do this without you. I've already forgotten what that was, so appreciate it. Yeah, it was Ekitike, thank you. Appreciate that. We just need to get to the 2,000 votes first on the Darwin one, and we'll go there. Philly Red said, Craig, a challenge for you. If we win the Prem and the Champions League, will you eat 3 pieces of broccoli and some kale? See, anything green makes me want to vomit because I feel like it hits a gag reflex or something. If we win a Champions League. Yeah, I mean, I said I'd eat 3 bits of broccoli if we win the Champions League. So yeah, sure, why not? Also, 2 things that I want to let you guys know about going into this season. I'm playing around with an idea, and I want your thoughts on it. So you know the way I do the predictions, the ones that nobody watches, and really, they do really badly, but I'm thinking for this season, every week I'm going to go against a different member. So every week I'll do my prediction versus the members, and at the end of the season, if I have more wins than the members, then one of those members has to do a forfeit. We'll pull a name out of a hat. But if the members beat me over the course of a season, they get to pick a forfeit for me at the end of the season. That, I think, could add a little bit of jeopardy into the mix. So that's one thing I want to do this year. Kind of taking a little bit of, like for the Irish guy, but a bit different. The Irish guy does it with other content creators, and certainly I was robbed. I was ahead all season until the last week, and then I got beaten. But yeah, I think that's a cool idea. So I'm going to try that one. So we're going to look in, again, we'll post in the community tab of the members part of our channel, and we'll get that moving in the next few weeks. And also, we just figured out today as well, confirmed it, myself, Chris Stonage and Steve Bland are going to be back doing a once a week Anfield Agenda podcast for the season. And we're going to start after the Preston game. So around the 15th of July, we're going to start with that one. So myself, Chris and Steve are going to do a podcast. It's going to come out in video format and it'll be on YouTube. It'll be out earlier for members to say thank you for your membership. We'll put it out a bit earlier. And yeah, I'm just trying to think of new things ahead of the season just to, you know, again, say thank you for the support and just keep it as interactive as we can. Don't get it. I love broccoli. So Google something for me, Andrew. Google super taster gene. Google that, because somebody replied to the video of me eating broccoli and they suggested something to me. And the super taster gene, basically, there are alcohol like gin, green stuff like broccoli, and black tea and coffee. Apparently, this super taster gene, anybody with that can't deal with these tastes. And they're all things that I hate. Like, I can't drink black coffee. Love coffee, but it can't be black. Can't drink the likes of gin or anything because it makes me gag. So I think maybe that's a reason why I don't like broccoli. So yeah, have a little Google about that one and see what you think, because I didn't know it existed till this gentleman commented on the video. Craig, are you also going to do that prediction thing against other fan channels? No, I'll just keep it within our community. I think that's the way I'd like to do it anyway. Marc said, oh, sorry, bro. Have I got that one still up? Yeah. It was on the Empire of the Cop, mate. Liverpool identify best fit in striker search. Thank you, by the way, Marc. I really do appreciate that. I'll have a little peruse of that later on. And look, like I said, on Ekitike, there are a lot of people that feel he'd be a really good signing. Right, so nearly there. We need about 200 more votes. Then we'll get into the Hugo Ekitike question. Yeah, we're just waiting for the other poll to finish, mate. We need to get 2,000 votes. I actually have the super taster thing, but I can have broccoli. Definitely not black coffee, though, said Muckrab. Yeah, so for me, broccoli, as you've seen, makes me gag. Nunez cannot stay. He is shocking. You're not getting an argument from me, but every time this conversation comes up, AD, and every time I give my opinion on Darwin, watch the comments. If I do a video and I say Darwin's been shocking, watch the comments. There's so many people that refuse to acknowledge that he hasn't been good enough. And look, it's almost admirable that people still support any player, but I just think it's very clear that this is the right time for both parties to move on, because he's just not doing it for us. And do I think he could go elsewhere and score? Yeah, maybe. Just isn't happening for us in the Prem. Nearly there. 150 votes to go. Then we'll get into the Ekitike question. So, anything Liverpool posted something from the XG philosophy that said the best XG differences last season. Liverpool were first with plus 50.62 XG. Arsenal were second with 28.93 plus 28.93 XG. Newcastle third with plus 22.16 XG. So there you go. Boffins amongst you will probably be happy about that. That, you know, we're getting into levels of statistics that I don't pay attention to now. Deutscher Copbite, how are we, dude? Lovely to see you again. So, do you have any concerns over Alisson now Taffarel has left, Craig? Also, just wanted to say the show's been a tonic for me since the loss of my mum. Well, again, from all of us, mate, sincere condolences on the loss of your mum. I know only too well how that feels. Like I've said before, mate, maybe people new to the channel don't know this, but I come from a family where both my parents unfortunately had alcohol problems. My mum committed suicide and my dad drank himself to death. And I know only too well the pain of losing a parent, especially as an only child. So I'm really sorry to hear about that. And the second part of your question, concerns over Alisson? Not really. Look, I don't know why Taffarel has departed for what it's worth, but, you know, I think Alisson has a year or two left at Liverpool in general. And, you know, Xavi Valero, from my recollection, was a really good goalkeeper coach when Pepe was at the club. And also we've got Georgie coming through as well as young Pechi. So for whatever reason, I don't know why Taffarel's departing the club. I don't know if it was a club decision, a Taffarel and his family decision. I really just don't know. But that doesn't concern me. You know, Alisson's still going to be working with really good goalkeeping coaches. And again, now has young Georgie Mambardashvili there as well to push him. Got a new assistant manager now, I've seen. Well, he is an assistant. You know, Sipka Hulshoff's still there, but yes, Giovanni van Bronckhorst was also confirmed today as the replacement for Johnny Heidegger, who of course went to become the new Ajax head coach. Right, have we got there yet? Oh, nearly there. 60 to go, and then we'll get on to the Ekitike poll. And I'm actually really interested to see what you guys think on Ekitike. Alisson needs to be given a new deal. Hand on heart, AD, and I don't... Okay, I'm going to have to context what I'm saying. I don't think he wants a new deal. And I don't mean that he wants away from Liverpool. I just really feel like he wants to go back to Internacional and have a few years in Brazil. You know, he's been kind of open and honest about that. So, yeah, I don't think you'll see Alisson sign a new deal, but I don't think it's because of any ill feeling on either side. I think this is just his life plan. And, you know, watching that documentary, you can certainly see what International means to him as a player. So I think he just wants to go back there. What's this one? Okay, so I've got that story now. 1 second. Really quick, I'm just going to fly through this this story here. So, three candidates. Ekitike considered the best fit. According to sources close to Empire of the Cop, Arne's looking for a centre forward with pace who can also press and is adept in link-up play. Ekitike has been identified as the best fit for that profile, and Liverpool would need to sell players first before they can commit to Eintracht Frankfurt's asking price. Isak initially regarded as plan A for Liverpool's visitation. It's difficult to sign him this summer. Newcastle not planning any offers less than 150 mil. Meanwhile, the yeah, that makes sense to me, what they're saying there. I can see a world where the club feel that Ekitike is the best fit, especially if they feel that you just can't get Isak. Right, so we've done it. Thank you. So 42% think that Darwin Nunez will join Napoli this summer. 24% feel that he will go to the Saudi Pro League. A move elsewhere in Europe was joined third with 16%, and 16% also said stay at Liverpool. Thank you to everyone that voted. Right, let's get the Ekitike poll. So, would you be happy with Ekitike joining? Yoink. Right, so would you be happy with Ekitike joining? Yes or no? I think this is a simple yes or no question. Obviously, the price will come into it, but, you know, price is probably going to be somewhere between 70 and 90 million euro, probably. I know they're asking 100 million euro, but I think they'll come down a bit on that. So this I'm really interested in, because I don't know enough about Ekitike to have a valid answer. What's this? Okay, so this just come in from Anfield Buzz, posted it, and they credited at Mattino di Napoli. Said, in the last few hours, Napoli have reopened negotiations with Liverpool for Darwin Nunez. Nunez would come to Liverpool with pleasure, or excuse me, would come to Napoli with pleasure. However, Liverpool's stance remains the same. The champions want 65, 70 million. So, again, it's it's one of these situations where if Liverpool, if that is the price, and again, I think it's overpricing it personally, but if that is the price, somebody's going to have to pay it or stop wasting everyone's time, you know, because how long have they spent now talking with Darwin and his camp? It feels like it's been a couple of weeks. So they've convinced the player. I don't have any debate about that. But that's not worth a shit if they don't come to a number that Liverpool are happy to do business at. So, you know, if Liverpool say this is the number, well, then start making offers close to that number, or go and sign the Udinese striker. That's the way this is going to have to pan out, because Liverpool just won't want this to drag out all summer. Marv said, Craig, is Ekitike 100 million? So the initial reports are that Eintracht Frankfurt want 100 million euro, which is about 85 million pound. Some other reports said that there's a chance they could maybe drop that by about 10 million. But either way, you're talking about probably about 75 million pound for Ekitike. Timelessness, thank you. That's a really kind comment, mate. Appreciate you. Do you think they get 50 with a heavy add-on? I'd take 50 with an add-on for Darwin. I'd take 40 with a 5 million add-on for Darwin, because I think that's probably a fair market value based off his time at Liverpool. Obviously, I want the club to get as much money as possible when they're selling a player, but they will have a valuation that they feel is right. I'll ask that as the next question. Do you think the £70 million valuation is overpriced? We'll see what people think. Remind me of that, because I will forget. But for me, yeah, I think 50 with add-ons would be fair business. But then again, I guess, is that all skewed by knowing that maybe Al Nassr or one of the clubs over in Saudi would give you the 70? So, you know, there's that kind of tug of war of, well, the club can get the money they want from elsewhere, but maybe the player isn't overly sold on this. So do you get to a point where the club say, this is your only option? They're the only ones offering us the money we want. You go there, or tell Napoli to come back with a better offer. So it's that balancing act between what makes the player happy and what works for the club. I don't know how you find the middle ground. Ooh, interesting about this one. So keep going. Question is, would you be happy with Hugo Ekitike joining? Do you think Slot will start Bradley and Robbo at the start of the season? I wouldn't be surprised, Stephen. Wouldn't be surprised if he went. You know, if it was Jurgen, I'd probably have a better read on it, having known, obviously, Jurgen around a bit longer. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if he starts the season with Andy Robertson and Conor Bradley. It depends, I guess, how quickly the guys acclimatise to the way we play football. And if Arna feels comfortable playing them both, let's say Frimpong and Kerkez, no problem with that either. People that don't take salt and vinegar need looked into. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I'm jumping into a conversation I'm seeing here in the chat. So I absolutely pickle my fish and chips in salt and vinegar, but my wife won't have vinegar on her chips, and I find that suspicious. Very suspicious. I don't know how anybody could eat fish and chips without vinegar on the fish and chips. I don't get it. It's suspect behaviour. Same with a battered sausage. My battered sausage, by the time I eat it, is white, you know, from all the vinegar on it. Yeah, that's, you know, it's non-negotiable for me. I wouldn't even eat them if there was no salt and vinegar on them. NIG Dragon said we should pay the money for Guehi and get him in. I think we will. I hope we do. I agree. See, Foxy, I knew you'd agree with me. Good South Dublin man like you are, mate. I knew you'd agree with me. Although we've had many a chipper together over the years, Foxy, and yeah, drowned in salt and vinegar. Pie, mash, and liquor all the way. I don't like liquor. Pie and mash I'm on board with. Love me a bit of pie and mash, definitely, but I'm not a liquor person. And by the way, just so we don't confuse our American friends, when we say pie, mash, and liquor, We don't mean liquor like vodka or whiskey. It's a particular type of white gravy kind of sauce. White and green, actually, I think, if my memory's right. Vinegar's awful. Oh, vinegar's amazing. Oh, would you stop it, mate? Vinegar's amazing. Salt and vinegar on chips, got to be done. Smokey said, love a good fish and chip. Mary's homemade chips. Oh, I absolutely. Do you know what? Do you know what else I've loved? I love fish goujons. You know, like fish bites or whatever you want to call them. Parsley sauce is liquor. Ah, nice. Not for me, though. Not for me. It feels like ready, steady cooking here. That's what I love about our channel, though, Brian. We can absolutely quickly move from talking about strikers to fish and chips. And I love it. I love a good tangent. Leo Burdock's great show. Leo Burdock's top notch. Top notch. So here's a hint for you. If you're over anywhere, the best way, in my opinion, to cook chips is in beef dripping. Get the old fry tex out, the old lard, and cook chips in that. To me, that's the best. So my dad used to always, used to have the deep fat fryers. My dad used to be swear by the fact that you had to cook the chips in the same one as the sausages. So you got the flavour of the sausages on the chips. And, if you haven't tried beef dripping to cook your chips in, you can thank me later because it's legit amazing. Just a question. Is Julian cheaper than Isak? Julian? 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 I'm confused on Julian, mate. Sorry. Oh, Alvarez. Oh, Julian Alvarez. No, God, no. He's not for sale. And if he was, probably be 100 million upwards as well. So I guess to one extent, yes, but both are probably impossible this summer. Sorry, I didn't cop it. We haven't spoken so long about Alvarez that I completely forgot. Wolf Blah Blam said, missed out on João Pedro, what a shame. See, I wouldn't have minded João Pedro as a second option, but not as the main guy through the middle. So, let's say, for argument's sake, we moved on Darwin and Jota. Then I wouldn't have minded João Pedro coming in as the second, but not as the guy. Air fryer, man. We've moved out of the dark ages. Yeah, no, I've got an air fryer. Absolutely. But you can't tell me that cooking chips in an air fryer is anywhere near as good as cooking chips the old-fashioned way. So yeah, I'll die on that hill. I love my air fryer. I use it all the time, but you got to go old school with chips. So we've only had 1,000 votes. We need this to keep going. Next one we're going to ask, I've already forgotten. What was it? The Darwin price, yes. See, I've already nearly forgotten it. So yeah, keep voting away. Air fryer for what is best? Air fryer, chicken tenders, pretty good out of an air fryer, to be honest. They're pretty good. Look, I love my Ninja air fryer. I couldn't live without it. Craig, when you go to the hotel, make sure you look at the floor. A few surprises in the floorboards. Cool, will do. Cheers for the recommendation. Can anyone remember chips and newspaper from the chippy? Oh God, yeah, absolutely, absolutely can remember those days. All right. I'm on an edible, and you will have me hungry. Nice, enjoy, mate. I'm not one for edibles personally. They I know that they're absorbed differently in the liver. I think it's 1-hydroxy. I can't remember the name of the process, but yeah, for me, I'll stick to consuming them the old-fashioned way. I'll stay away from the edibles. Anyone want Victor Gyökeres? I would say, Wayne, probably quite a few in the chat, but it's just not a deal that's ever been on Liverpool's radar. Craig, newish viewer, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. Look, honestly, to all the people that have joined our community over the summer, I mean, I think you're going to really enjoy our watch-alongs, because that's what we built the channel off, is our watch-alongs. That's when real inner lunatic Craig comes out. This is nice, calm Craig, but in watch-alongs, yeah, if you haven't seen an Anfield Agenda watch-along yet, I think you're going to enjoy the season when it comes along. That's where I really lose my mind. I don't know, just I can't help it, but during watch-alongs, it gets colourful. Noah James, hi Craig, made my day, the birthday video. Oh man, it was a pleasure making it. Happy birthday, 18th birthday, Noah James. Yeah, it was a pleasure to make it, mate. And thank you for your support as well. Like I said in the video, it really is a humbling experience to know that you're part of people's daily routine. And I think maybe it was your mum that reached out for the video, but appreciate you, my man, and thank you so much. And happy 18th birthday. Craig, have you seen the class CGM from Stuttgart, Stiller? Oh, God, yeah. Milos. Angelo Stiller's a really good player. We were linked with him. Real Madrid were linked with him. And I don't know if the interest from us is still there, because the CDM market for us has gone very quiet, obviously, without knowing what's going to happen with Bajcetic and McConnell for next season. But Stiller's a really good player. Jay's Mighty Red Army, thank you for gifting a membership, mate. Appreciate you. Best watch along last season. Well, there was one that got me in more trouble than any other, and that was the United draw. That game got me in trouble because I kind of went off on one a bit at Darwin and Mo. So yeah, that one got me in a load of trouble. Anything in Tyler Morton? Yes. Braga. Who were the ones in Tyler Morton? Braga, West Ham, and I think there were a couple of clubs in the Bundesliga who've been credited with an interest in Tyler Morton. Again, feels like he will move on. Obviously, he's just won the Under-21 Euros with Harvey and Kwanzaa in the England team. But I think, yeah, you'll see him move this summer. I think somewhere around 15 million would be my guess. Have I tried haggis? I haven't, but my wife has. Yeah, I wouldn't be going for haggis now personally. I can see Liverpool keeping Jota as backup, said VI Jokers. So do I, but something caught my eye today. Let me read it out to you and see what you think about this. So I was reading the Echo earlier on, and I seen a piece that says Wolves chairman reveals Liverpool transfer he would now change. And the piece said, Wolves chairman Jeff Shee has acknowledged that he would not sell Diogo Jota again if he could change history. During an appearance on the Business of Sport podcast, Shee said, of course, at the time, Diogo was injured a little bit too much, so he was injured for 2 months, then 2 months again or whatever, and not playing so well in the last 3-4 months for us. But he went to Liverpool, he did so well, and I was very happy for him. He was a very good guy and a smart boy. If you ask me if I can change the history, I wouldn't have sold him. Now, the reason I bring that up is, about 6 weeks ago, there was a piece that said Wolves were interested in bringing Diogo Jota back, but one of the things that was stopping it was that Diogo wanted to go to a club that would be playing in European competition next season. So I don't know if maybe that's hinting that they'd be open to a reunion with Diogo, but like you, I think Arne certainly wouldn't ideally want to move him on. He seems to be a player that the manager has faith in, and I think moving on one forward this summer, you know, we're struggling right now to find that centre forward, so losing 2 would be a lot. Has to be battered chips. Battered chips are lovely. Yeah, you starting to see them more and more around as well. Right, so we're going to knock it at 1,500 votes for the Ekitike one. So would you be happy with Ekitike joining is the current question. So far, we've had about 1,270 votes. So if you haven't, have a quick vote on that. And then we'll move on to ask about the Darwin price. Mike said, the Isak situation worries me. Surely no one on this stream that doesn't want him. But the price is spicy. If we're going to bring in a left winger like Rodrigo and Guehi also would be some serious damage. So, okay. Like you, I would be extremely surprised if we got Isak, but I would also be extremely happy. The price, I feel we would have to overpay. I'm not going to go away from that. You know, I feel like his real price is about £90 million, but what you'd have to pay is probably upwards of 120. The Rodrigo stuff, I just don't see happening in a million years, to be honest with you. I just don't see that on Liverpool's radar. And also, we have to keep an eye on the overseas places in our squad. We currently don't have any. So if we move Darwin on, we'd have one space. And if you were to bring in Isak, Ekitike, that would take up that space again. Meaning on the left side, yes, if you sold Diaz, then you'd have an overseas spot. But I don't know. I don't see it being Rodrigo. Not that he isn't good enough. Of course he's good enough. I just don't think it'd be him. I just can't see Liverpool going to negotiate with Real Madrid. This came into me a second ago. Newcastle can still land Liverpool star Harvey Elliott for as little as £40 million this summer, says one of the correspondents for the Chronicle, I think it is. Elliott is eager to sign for a club that can offer Champions League football. I said this so many times on the stream. I think a move to Newcastle for Harvey Elliott would be a really good move. I think the Geordies would love him. He'd get good football and a decent level. I think Eddie Howe, again, would be a good manager to continue his development. And I just think for Elliott, that would be the best move if he could get a move to Newcastle. We know that they've been admirers of his for a while. And again, it will be with a heavy heart that we see him depart Liverpool. But if I'm in his shoes, that's probably the one I'd be looking at to move to. I think they'd love him up in Newcastle. And also, I can see him in a Newcastle shirt in my head. Elliott and Gordon in a swap deal. Oh, we're not allowed to say that, Darshan. It gets people angry when we talk about Anthony Gordon. People get very angry. Because I get it. I think Anthony Gordon would be okay at Liverpool. I think we'd be able to develop him at Liverpool. But there's a lot of people that feel like he rolls around too much and that he isn't good enough. But it would certainly be an option worth exploring. Although I say that, every time we do a poll, he ends up winning the poll for the left winger. We did one yesterday and we gave 4 options and Anthony Gordon was the one people voted for. Would you take Bowen? Not now, no. He's too old, but he's certainly good enough. Jared Bowen's been somebody I've said for about 3 or 4 years would be brilliant in our system. Just now he's 30? I just think he's too old. We shouldn't be doing Newcastle favours. Is it doing them a favour? I think if they pay the asking price and Elliott wants to move, it's got to be one that works for everybody. But would I take Lewandowski? No. Not for the Prem at this point in his career, no. You have to look at the way Liverpool like to do business as well. And Robert Lewandowski at the very tail end of what's been an absolutely incredible career just doesn't feel like a good fit. Again, we'll be looking for somebody for the future, somebody that has 5, 6, 7 years left. Right, we've 95 votes to get, and then we'll move on to the Darwin poll before we finish up. Would I take Watkins as an out-and-out striker? Again, 30 years of age or so, the price tag it would take to get him, it just doesn't seem value for money there. Committing 50 million, let's say, for Ollie Watkins, I just don't think it's sensible. Andrew said, got a horrible feeling Harvey will come back to haunt us. Well, that's why I think the club, Andrew, are looking to put 2 different prices. 40 million with a buyback option or 50 million without. Has Waltmada moved to Bayern yet? Nope. Because Stuttgart are extremely annoyed at Bayern because they didn't approach them. They talked to the players' camp, but they didn't go to the club. And that's why they've turned around and said, if Bayern want them, €100 million. And Bayern have been having a bit of a mare this transfer window. Between players saying no to them and clubs getting annoyed with the way they're going about their business. Yeah, they're in a tricky situation. And Liverpool just basically told them to piss off today around Diaz. Nick said, I'm happy with whatever the recruitment staff is happy with. I don't want to pull for one player and end up sad if a team doesn't go that way. Yeah, I'm like you, Nick. I've full faith that we'll get the right guy in for the way that Arne Slot wants to play. I'm more concerned about the Darwin situation and him moving on than I am about finding a replacement. Liverpool Forever said, now the must-have transfer is a reliable centre-back. Absolutely 100%. I don't think anyone disagree with you, mate. We've lost a centre-back now. It's confirmed. So we have Konate, whose future is really up in the air. We've got Gomez, who's coming back from some injuries, and Van Dijk. We definitely need a centre-back, and we need a centre-back before pre-season. So I would expect to see Liverpool really get to the negotiating stance now with regards to Marc Guehi or whoever they want to bring in. But you're right, we need to go and get a centre-back soon. Do I like tennis now for being watching Wimbledon? Yeah, we were just talking about it earlier on. Just watched Raducanu beat Vondrousova, and obviously was watching the Alcaraz game earlier on as well. So yeah, do watch it and have been and always enjoy it. Right, 10 votes to go. And then we'll move on to ask about the Darwin Nunez price. So basically what I'm going to ask is, do you think the £70 million valuation that Liverpool have for Darwin is fair? But a couple of votes to go. Nearly there. Nearly there. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. Right, so 70% said yes, you would be happy with Hugo Ekitike joining. So, last poll for the night. Do you think the 70 million asking price for Darwin is fair? Right, do you think the £70 million asking price for Darwin is fair? Yes or no? And we'll see what you think. So, do you think it's fair? Do you think it's good value? For what it's worth, I don't. I think we're overpriced for them. But if the club get it, then fair play. Hugo and Osimhen is a massive win for me. Hugo and Osimhen. There's definitely no way we're getting both, mate. You know, either or perhaps, but there's no world we get both. Craig, will Mamardis really get a lot of game time? I think that's impossible to answer until you see what he's like. You know, he'll get some preseason games. You know, I think the plan will probably be to give him the domestic cup games, but the concern that I have is the distribution. That's the only part. As a shot stopper or somebody who commands his area, I don't really have any issues with Georgie Mamardis really, but I'm interested to see if he's able to play out the way that we'd like to. So, yeah, I think he'll get the domestic cups. That's probably the plan. But again, we've seen Alisson have some injuries in recent seasons, so if Alisson picks up another knock or something, then he might have more games than he expected. AD said thoughts on Lukea. By all accounts, seems like a very good young centre back. Again, do I watch a lot of RB Leipzig? Not really, but the price tag is certainly interesting. It's on the high side, isn't it? You know, reading through the stories from earlier on, this one said Bild reported that Leipzig are not willing to sell him this summer, even though he has a release clause and a gentleman's agreement that he could go for less than the release clause. And then there was another report from Foot Mercado that said Liverpool, Bayern Munich and Spurs are battling for Costello Lukeba, who is open to leaving and has a release clause of around €90 million. Leipzig and Lukeba have an agreement that he can be sold for a lower amount. But we're seeing conflicting reporting. Some saying they're not going to sell him this summer. Some saying they'll sell him and they have an agreement that he can go for a little bit less than his €90 million valuation. I don't know if he's worth €90 million or not. And I mean that sincerely. I mean, I really just don't know. Again, a question about Watkins. He's too old for me, Paul. He's 30 years of age, Ollie Watkins. I just can't see Liverpool, or he's about to be 30. Just can't see any value in that deal. Darwin cost us 76.5 million. Of course, he's worth 70. So, not trying to be a smart arse at all here, but if he was worth 70, there'd be clubs queuing up to sign him. And I'm not trying to be a smart ass, but you know how many clubs are looking for a striker this summer, and nobody's come in and offered anything above 45 million at the moment. So yeah, he's only worth what you can get from is really the way I'd look at it. But it is interesting to see the answers. So we'll leave it going till we finish the stream in about 10 minutes. But you can have your say on this. When we asked, do you think the £70 million asking price for Darwin Nunez is fair? So again, I just want to let people know about this, right? We're going to give it a few more days to see how the ticket sales are going on this particular show in Cork. It's down as our last Irish one. But at the moment, it's nowhere near a level that we could actually do the show because everybody would be out of pocket on it. So if it doesn't pick up over the next few days, we'll probably have to pull the plug on the Cork show and have our last ever show as the one in Liverpool. So just keep an eye on that over the next, little while. Right, let's keep going. Where are we? How did that not come up on the screen? How delayed is that? Sorry, I'm keeping an eye on the pop-up that I pulled up. Still hasn't come up on my second screen. That's really weird. There it is. Wow, that's quite a delay. Yeah, so sorry. Nunez price is too much unless it's Saudi offering it. Craig, Nunez hasn't done enough to be worth 70 million. Ekitike is who Liverpool end up with, said Paul. What's the best email to contact you? So if you want to contact me directly, the best one's probably contact@AnfieldAgenda.com. Contact@AnfieldAgenda.com. But I try my best to reply to as many as I can, my man, but it's gotten really busy over the past month or so. So if I don't get back to you in a quick space of time, please don't feel I'm ignoring you. Asking 70 million for Darwin, said Marissa, is like saying he's not for sale. Well, sort of, because Saudi would pay it. So it's either like saying he's not for sale or Saudi are the only ones that are going to pay what we value him at. Paul Bayman, how are we, Paul? Said, what positions will currently be a contingency? Left winger would be one. There's some talk that the club would like a versatile wide player. I would say you'd have to consider the central defensive midfield position, Paul, as one that you keep an eye on how Bajcetic gets on in pre-season if he can come back from that hamstring injury. Don't know if there's too much more I would think the club are looking at as a potential contingency or surprise, because I don't think we're going to lose anybody that maybe they haven't planned for. Do you think Saudi may have already offered 70 million? I don't know, but certainly there's been enough indications. I mean, let's read this out from earlier on. Where is it? This one? We know that there's also interest still from Darwin Nunez from Saudi clubs. So I think the club probably feels, same with Diaz, that there may well be an offer coming in that they feel would meet their valuations. But what I can say to you is what Darwin or what Lucho or anybody else thinks of the idea of going to the Saudi Pro League. I really just don't know the answer to that. Gary said, I think Darwin's attitude and lashback is what does not suit the club. It's been a while since we've had one of them. I just think it hasn't worked out, mate. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked for either party. We've had two different coaches and it just, hasn't worked out. And sometimes that happens. Can mods join the Discord? I believe so, yes. Certainly Marc will take care of that for you. But yeah, usually moderators are all very welcome into our Discord. That's certainly how I understand things. Would you take 120 for Darwin and Diaz to Saudi? Said Jeremy. Would I take 120 for Darwin and Diaz to Saudi? I'm probably right on the edge. I probably want a little 130 and you've got a deal, Jeremy, but 120, I don't know, 120, 70, 50 from them. I probably want a little bit higher. When is the Guehi deal done? I don't know. I mean, certainly, Marvin, I wouldn't take it for granted, mate, that it's definitely going to get done. You know, certainly he's somebody who's of interest to Liverpool, somebody who is interested in joining Liverpool, but you got to get Palace to a price that Liverpool feel there's value at. Because if Palace, let's say, just for example, stick at 50 million quid, I don't think you'll see Liverpool paying the 50 million quid, and maybe then they reevaluate and start to look to maybe Nathan Collins or back over to Joel Haddo or somebody. I think if Liverpool can get a deal done, 35, 40 million for Marc, they'll probably do the deal. Harry B444 said, Osimhen may be worth taking a punt on for 63 mil. If you manage to raise the money, I could see Liverpool signing Gordon and continuing to play Diaz, Jota up top. I think for Diaz to stay, I don't think there's any hope we sign Gordon, as an example. I think that only comes along as a possibility if Diaz leaves. The Osimhen stuff, I still don't know whether I even believe we're really in for Osimhen or not, because the whole Osimhen situation just feels a bit weird. I don't understand why clubs aren't kicking down Napoli's door at £63 million. You know, there has to be a reason, because, what is he, 26, experienced, you know, puts the ball in the back of the net. There has to be a reason. In other words, you think the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, United would all be hammering on Napoli's door to buy him. I just don't know if it's attitude, wages. I really just don't know. Right, we are only 65 likes away from 1,000, you wonderful human beings. So if you can, take a second for me, hit that like button. Is the story true about how close Gordon was last summer? Read a medical was going to be done in Leipzig. Yes, it is. He was even telling people in that England camp that he thought the move was going to go through. Yes, and that's why I keep saying I wouldn't be surprised if it's revisited at any point. So it definitely is true. The club do have a like of him, and he certainly of the club. But whether it happens or not remains to be seen. But yes, it was very close last year. So close that, as I said, he was telling colleagues in the England camp he thought the move was going to happen. Got my tickets for the Bilbao day. First time seeing the Reds at Anfield. Looking forward to it. Nice. What a game to go. Well, 2 games, H versus to go to. Yeah, brilliant. I'm looking forward to even the watch along, mate, of those 2 back to back. So yeah, sounds good. Enjoy, and do let us know how you get on. United don't have a pot to urinate in. You think so, Stuart? But you know they're out there buying 60 million wingers like they're going out of fashion. 62.5 million for Cunha, who's, I guess, a 10 attacker, a 9, a 9.5, whatever you want to call him. And then they're probably going to come back and pay what it takes, which is 65 million to get Mbeumo. And then they're still talking about a striker, but yeah, also laying off staff and crying poor mouth. It's nuts. Now, we know they'll recoup some money, but I think some of their players are going to be hard to move on as well with the wages they're on. Ready for the Community Shield, especially if we steal Guehi from them. Yeah, I mean, Community Shield to me is just a friendly. I don't really pay much attention to it, apart from the fact, obviously, money's raised for good causes, which is always cool. Right. Almost there. When we get to 1,000 votes, we'll call it. So do you think the £70 million asking price for Darwin is fair? Still have a chance to vote on that one. Will I stream the club friendlies of Liverpool? The only one I'm not going to do DJ is the Yokohama Marinos one because it's too early for my liking. So we'll definitely do the Preston one. The 12:30 game against AC Milan in Hong Kong. We'll do that. And we'll do the two Bilbao ones as well. Just not going to do the Yokohama Mariners one because unless Connor wants to do it, it's just too early for me. How the holy cluck are teams like Chelsea buying 75 players? Honestly, don't know, mate. I don't know how. They've almost spent about 2 billion at this point. And I know they've recouped money, but I've no idea how they're able to continue to do it. I just don't know. Is it Oshimen or Oshimin? It's the first one, mate. It's Osimhen. Jeremy said, do you think we'll have a striker by pre-season? No, I don't. I think the striker will be the last one we get done. I wouldn't even be surprised if we started the season without a striker. That, I do think this could go late into the window, particularly if they continue to watch and see what happens with Isak. I think it might go late. Would you rather have Isak and Fofana or Ekitike and Gordon? Isak and Fofana. Yeah, Isak and Fofana for me, Harry. Do you think buyers are blind to Darwin's performances at Liverpool? No, but I also think that there could easily be a world where they think they could be the ones to put the whole package together in a different league, maybe different environment, maybe a different setup up top, maybe play with two strikers or something. I'm sure that there are clubs and managers out there who will look at Darwin and think, if we can get this kid firing, there's a real player in there. Right, so do you think £70 million was fair for Darwin? 65% said no, and 35% said yes. For what it's worth, I'd be in the no camp. I think he's worth 45 to 55, but let's wait and see if Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes can bring in the £70 million. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say goodnight. Recording an update and a news video in the next few minutes. As always, should be out about 11. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. Appreciate you all. And thank you for another great stream. Yeah, much love. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.